problems getting my audio switched over to my earbuds. No, come on, why aren't you working? Okay, let me turn something off. Oh no, what is going on? Oh my goodness. This thing. The music is supposed to be off, but it's definitely playing. Okay, y'all, I'm having some issues. I've been trying to adjust the sound on this. I've been trying to adjust where the music is playing because sometimes the music is set up in other areas where it shouldn't be. It should be playing on my startup screen and my Be Right Back screen. Was supposed to be off when it was playing. Let's put that back on. I still need to try to send a chat message. Okay, music is going. Alright. Let's hope things are right. Let me go ahead and get a message sent. So the chat is working like it's supposed to. Oh my goodness. It's almost time to start. Just get right here and it's gonna go and take care of some stuff real quick, but it's just no way. Right, hello everyone, this is Venus Brown. I am going to be talking a little bit about the Testaments. It is starting, at least for me, tomorrow. Not sure exactly what time, but the TV series is starting tomorrow. I have been doing readings of the book The Testament by Margaret Atwood, but I will also be doing reactions to the Testament once it comes out. Just expect them to come, just expect me to get the first one out about a week after it drops, and then one per week after that. So anyway, let me adjust my I need to adjust some things. Like, I adjusted the lighting and stuff on my camera earlier, but it has been raining all day and it looks like it's a little too dim for right now. So let me go ahead and brighten that up a little bit. There we go. It's a little better. Apply. Okay. And I think the chat box is in a good place. I am using the same theme that I am using for my Testaments live reads. And I will probably do that for the reaction. Well, no, the reactions I will have set up differently. But anytime I do a live stream for the Testaments, it's probably going to be on this theme. So just keep that in mind. Like I said earlier, I'm having some issues with the music. I mean, the main issue, I think, is that each of these scenes, each of these scenes, like anytime I add something to it, a lot of times will also add something in the audio section. And a lot of the stuff that I'm adding for the video and stuff like that, I don't want the audio on there. And so I've been having problems with a lot of audio stuff playing that shouldn't be playing on both my Testaments live streams and my Deadlock live stream. So I'm trying to get the sound right so that the music is playing where it's supposed to, so that the music is not playing where it's not supposed to. And for some reason, like the intermission screen should not have music on it. And when I had it on the startup screen right here, the music had been turned off but was still playing anyway. So yeah, it's just messed up. Anyway, let me go to the live scene. Enough of my technical issues. Yeah, we've got the Testaments is starting now. If for some reason you don't know what this is a spinoff of The Handmaid's Tale. If you don't know what The Handmaid's Tale is, I definitely recommend you look up the book, you look into the TV series. It is good. It is depressing in many ways, but it's good. It's a good dystopian story. Brief rundown, like the briefest of rundowns of the story. The USA and pretty much everywhere in the world is facing record level lows of childbirths. So their populations are drifting, childbirths are going way, way down. And the United States is also, they're dealing with this. And this theocratic regime takes over. They invade the White House. They freaking kill everybody in the White House. Most of the government is gone. Just gone. They blame it on terrorists, but really it's them from within. It's a religious regime. They claim to be Christian, but they're there's all kinds of shit that they do that is not Christian, but a lot of Christian denominations are like that. Anyway, they take over. They take any of these fertile women that they consider sinners. They try to get them, kidnap them, take their children hostage, give their children to the higher level echelons of the regime, and force these women that are able to give childbirth into fathering children on the commander's households, where the commander and wives were not able to have children. So if they're not having any luck, they bring a handmaid in to try to get children that way, because the population has gone down that much, and they're just not interested in trying the old style ways of artificial insemination, stuff like that. It is available. They said even with all of the technology and stuff, it still wasn't doing enough. So their idea is to force these women to have sex with these commanders every month in order to have babies. Anyway, Testaments is a spin-off of The Handmaid's Tale. In The Handmaid's Tale, the handmaid that the story is about had a child who was around 4 or 5 when she was kidnapped. She was taken. Her child was taken, ripped from her arms. She was knocked out. She was brought to a red center to be trained to be a handmaid, which is the girls that are having babies for these commanders. And her child was taken and given to another family. In the Testaments, this is one of her children is in the TV series. She is grown up now. She is old enough now that they are trying to marry her off. And her youngest daughter is supposed to be a teenager. Now, there are some discrepancies from what I'm hearing on the blogosphere about whether the girl that was supposed to be June, which is that handmaid, June's daughter Nicole, is actually going to be in the TV show, or if in the book, June's daughter Nicole, which is her second daughter, one she gives birth to in Gilead when she's a handmaid. That daughter is baby Nicole, and she ends up getting that daughter out of there. And in the book, the daughter ends up being the daughter ends up in Canada, which is where she was most of the time in The Handmaid's Tale as well. I'm not telling you this very well, but she was taken out of Gilead. She was put in Canada. She's being raised by other people because June is in hiding. Now, on the TV series, they ended it with them being back in what was Gilead, but that part of Gilead where Boston is was taken back over by the United States at the very end. I know I'm giving big spoilers now, but June was there, and baby Nicole was there, and then baby Nicole was supposed to be taken care of by June's mother, her grandmother. But in the book, that isn't her mom was getting on in age, so it's possible that she died. It's possible that her mom was in hiding too. I don't know. But for whatever reason, in the book, she is being raised by another family to keep her disconnected. And she does not know that her name is Nicole. She's going by Daisy. And I do not know for sure if in the series she is going to be the girl that is called Daisy, because some people are saying that Daisy can't be Nicole because of the age difference. Because when we last saw Nicole, she was like 1.5, 2 at the most. And the showrunners are saying that Testaments takes place like right after that. 4 years at the most, but they're trying to claim it's right after that. I don't think it's right after that because there should still at least be a few years. But whether it's 4 years or not, that would make baby Nicole now 5 or 6, 7 at the most. And in the TV show, she's supposed to be a teenager. But they said that there were going to be discrepancies with the timeline because of this. So, I don't know. Anyway, I am going to play a trailer. And we'll go over the trailer. I have not seen this trailer yet. And I did look through what they had listed for trailers. And mostly it looked like everything I was seeing was mostly the exact same trailer. So I'm just going to play the one trailer. And then after that, there is an article that I want to read. This article is going over interviews that occurred back in 2025, towards the end of The Handmaid's Tale season 6, I believe. So let me go ahead and get the trailer started. Okay. Something. Oh, no. I see what's going on. I am on the wrong thing. There we go. Okay. Hopefully my sound is set up right now. Yes.
I'm not really sure what year it was. I know I still had my dollhouse. It looked just like our real house. Some dolls were always busy. Others were always doing the important work. There is a little girl doll. That's me.
Very, very cute hair. Thanks. Yours too. My socks, I look like I have that head.
Back then, we still believed in this world. I guess it's easier to accept a story than believe that the people around you are monsters.
Agnes Mackenzie, this is Daisy. Make her feel comfortable.
Daisy, where do you hail from? Canada.
I imagine Canada's very different from here.
Very.
Which makes me wonder, what did you come here for?
We gather here tonight to bring women back to their rightful place.
I have to save those girls.
Just get close to her.
Changed ever since she's been around. Can't that be a good thing?
Why is everybody being so touchy? Nobody cares what we want. This is our whole lives.
There comes a time when you have to take action. When you have to choose your own destiny.
Your body will tempt you into impulsive decisions.
We need to destroy everything.
We had no idea what we were capable of. It was time for us to change things. 'Cause you're a dream to me.
Woo! Oh, wow. That was an emotional trailer. Okay. Let's, I want to go back through this. Okay.
I'm not really sure what year it was. I know I still had my dollhouse. It looked just like...
Okay, so this dollhouse, they talk about this in the book. Like a lot of stuff they're showing on this trailer definitely seems like it fits very well with the way the book is written. And I am questioning the people that think that the girl Daisy, the Pearl girl, is not June's daughter Nicole. I think it is. That looks like they're going with the same storyline, although they could try to claim that it is a similar girl going through the same thing, but it's not her. That I don't know, I find that hard to believe. But the dollhouse, she talks about the dollhouse and how it's identical to the house that she's living in, and they have dolls for each of the people that would be in a household like that. And the dollhouse also came with a handmaid, but in their house they didn't need a handmaid, at least at the beginning, because they already had her and they didn't need any more babies. So they decided to wrap the Handmaid's Tale, or the handmaid doll, up in tissue paper. She was supposed to try to give it to another girl. I don't think she did. Yeah, and it definitely reminds me of the dollhouse that they show in the TV series The Handmaid's Tale, when one of the times where June actually gets to see Hannah. Hannah is her oldest daughter. Hannah is the daughter that was kidnapped when she was taken. The first time they got to actually see each other together after she was taken like that, and after her daughter was taken, it was the commander that the handmaid was living with, Fred, took them on a trip to this like really fancy house, and apparently they were away on vacation or something, so everything was kind of covered up, but they had this dollhouse in there. And that was one of the things that she was playing with when she got there, when June got to visit with her. And it definitely reminds me of that. I will go back and look in the show later on to see what I imagine it is definitely not the same dollhouse, but I wonder if it looks similar, because it definitely reminds me of it. But it's been a long time since I've seen it, so I wouldn't know for sure.
Just like our real house. Some dolls were always busy. Others were always doing the important work.
Others were always doing the important work, and we've been reading. I've been reading the story, and we already got through the chapter where she talks about that, how her dad is always in his study doing the important work, and that the girls were not allowed in there. They are not allowed to do that kind of work because they don't have big enough brains to do that kind of work. Just freaking disturbing. But she says that most of the time her dad would go into the study and he would just stay there, and nobody else was allowed in the study. So she doesn't even know what's in the study. But in the dollhouse, they have a replicated study with books all over in it. But in the books, there's nothing in there. And she makes the comment to her Gilead mom that it seems like there should be markings or something in there, but there's nothing in there. And her Gilead mom tells her that they're like decorations, like vases of flowers. So, yeah. Anyway.
There's a little girl doll. That's me.
Very, very cute hair. Thanks. Yours too. My socks, I look like I have that head.
Back then, we still believed in this world. I guess it's easy.
Okay, and so this is the other thing, is that with the Handmaid's Tale, we're looking at the women that are handmaids, that what they're going through, their lives, and what happens after they get out of there, stuff like that. We're not looking so much at the kids. When we do look at the kids, it's only the kids that they helped escape. It's the kids that are in the immediate families that the handmaids are in, stuff like that. But not taking a really close inner look at their lives. This is going to look closer at their lives, what they're going through. And in this case, it's going to be those adolescent years where they're young adults and they're getting ready to be married off. And I think they're trying to make it sound like they're airing on, adult years. But the reality is, if you've watched Handmaid's Tale, we know there were 13, 14-year-old girls getting married off. So, and I think in the book they present it as once they get to where they're having periods. So they're like keeping an eye on that, and once these girls get to where they can have a period, then oh wow, they can have babies now, so let's get them married off as early as possible so that we can have as much luck as we can with having more babies. So just disturbio. And the other thing, in the book it comments on how the girls have white dresses and pink dresses and plum dresses. But in the book, it says that the white dresses are for one season, the pink dresses are for another season, plum dresses are for another season. In the TV series, it's been presented as the pink is for the little ones, and maybe white is for like infants and stuff, babies. Pink is for the little kids, and then the purple is for when they get to where they're starting to go to school to become wives. So that's what the purple is. These are girls being trained to become wives.
It's easier to accept a story.
Hold on. My audio just switched. I think that was it coming back on. Yeah. The earbuds are Bluetooth, so sometimes if they shut off, then I lose the sound from them.
Then believe that the people around you are monsters.
Yeah, this was the hangings. So this was another thing that I just read in the book when I've been doing my readings, is these girls are talking about how they were told by the aunts that are teaching them that that later on they'll be able to go to pravaganzas and salvagings, so they can watch people getting hung and getting murdered. Like, seriously, these are freaking young girls, and they're talking about, yeah, you're gonna get to go to pravaganzas and salvagings and watch murders and marriages. Like, oh gosh, yeah. So, not fucking cool. And what was the other thing I was thinking of? I can't remember. It was something with the hangings. But anyway, let's go on.
Agnes Mackenzie, this is Daisy. Make her feel comfortable.
Daisy, where do you hail from?
Canada.
I imagine Canada's very different from here.
Okay, so yeah, so on the book, don't know for sure if they're gonna go this way, but on the book, Daisy is Nicole. She just doesn't know it. She finds out when I can't remember if it was when she turns 13 or 16, but one of the teenage years, it's like her birthday, and the people that are taking care of her, they get freaking assassinated. I probably shouldn't be telling some of this stuff, but oh my gosh. She finds out that she's baby Nicole, and that's how she ends up going through this thing where they're trying to get her over there to Gilead, because they have these Pearl girls now that do missionary work, who come from other countries. And the idea is to get her smuggled over there so that she can help try to do some things from within. But to me, what they're showing on here looks like her story. So I'm hoping they'll go with that. If not, if it's some other girl that's just called Daisy, but it's not Nicole, then whatever. Whatever.
Which makes me wonder, what did you come here for?
We gather here tonight.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing, is that they show how these girls are like, so the girls in Gilead, they're intentionally kept ignorant about a lot of things. So they're very immature in some ways because they're intentionally just not allowed to learn about certain things. But at the same time, this girl that's coming from Canada, she was raised in this country that had freedom. She was raised in a place where certain things were allowed to go anytime, whenever, whatever. You could wear what you want, dress how you want, eat what you want, all of that. Whereas Gilead is very regimented, and there's a lot of rules and stuff. So these girls go from, both of them have these spots of ignorance where they don't understand the world around them. Daisy doesn't understand this world that she's getting into because she's lived in a free country her whole life. And Agnes, Hannah, she doesn't understand the rest of the world. So there's a lot of this immaturity in both of them, but in different ways. And I loved how they showed all those tables like exactly the same, only with the different colors of girls, and you see how everybody's like it seems everybody is just moving in a certain way, a lot like they did with the Handmaids. The Handmaids were always in red, always with the white caps, and always like moving in a certain way. Anytime they went into a room, they were lined up in a certain way. It all looked very aesthetic, but it was also kind of creepy. You know, that like Stepford Wives kind of creepy, only a little different.
To bring women back to their rightful place.
Have to save those girls.
Just get close to her.
Changed ever since she's been around. Can't that be a good thing? Why is
Okay, so I believe the guy that they showed is the guy that's going to help her get over there, and I think he's the one that tells her about her situation, her story, and why she's important and all of that. Not 100% sure, but I think so. And she does not fit in very well in Gilead, obviously. So, yeah, they're like, everything's changing since she's been here. Like, she doesn't fit very well. So there should be some stuff with that.
everybody being so touchy? Nobody cares what we want. This is our whole lives.
There comes a time when you have to take action. When you have to choose your own destiny.
Your body will tempt you into impulsive decisions.
We need to destroy everything.
We had no idea what we were capable of.
Right. And that's another thing. He's like telling her we need to destroy everything. These girls, particularly Hannah / Agnes, she's just learning about what the hell's going on. Like, something happened in her life that was so traumatic and so life-changing that that these plans that they had for her to get married and everything, maybe she doesn't necessarily want to do that. But also something really traumatic happens that kind of puts her into this situation where she's like, something's wrong, shit needs to change. Like, she's picking up on things being off. And then Daisy and this guy come into their life and they're like, wait a minute. Like, they're like, look, this place that you have been brought up in, that you thought was so idyllic, that you've seen as your home all this time, it's like, it's rotten in the core, you know. We gotta destroy it anyway. I'm probably giving more spoilers than anybody is gonna give, but
It was time for us to change things.
'Cause you're a dream to me.
okay. All right. So that's the trailer. Okay, let's stop that. Okay. Now, all right. So that was pretty good. I liked that trailer, and I do like that it seems to fairly well go along, from what I can tell, with what seems to be in the book. And the YouTube review that I'm going to show you, she talks about how a lot of this, what she says, she didn't read the book yet, but the things that she says definitely sounds to me like they're going to be following the book pretty well. And to me, Handmaid's Tale followed the book pretty well, at least for the first season. But if you watched Handmaid's Tale and you looked into that, then you probably know that the first season of Handmaid's Tale was basically the book. After the first season, there was no written material. So they were trying to extend that story out without another book. But they did use little things that happen in the book here and there throughout the series so that they could kind of keep that continuity going and keep it connected. And they were also in connection with Margaret Atwood the whole time, so that they could have her ideas of what's supposed to happen on screen. So I thought it went well. I know there were some seasons that people really did not care for. I think the first 4 seasons were pretty good, and a lot of people complained about 5 and 6. Some people complained about 4 too, but I liked them. I think my biggest problem was probably with season 5. I don't have a problem with season 6, but I know a lot of people that did. I thought they tied it up nicely, but I know some people did not, and some people did think they tied it up nicely. Anyway, let's see. Okay, so do I want to do the article? Yeah, I'm going to do the article next. So the article, I think I'm doing it here. Or was it? No, I was going to do the article here. Okay, so this article, like I said before, was written in 2025 towards the end of The Handmaid's Tale, and it is, and I'm pretty sure they were interviewing showrunners and stuff like that, or they got it from interviews from the showrunners. All right, so, and they have a thing where it can read it to you, but I don't really care for... So the voice sounds fairly natural and all, but the way that it reads the stuff, like some of the readers do a pretty good job at telling where a sentence starts and stops, where a paragraph starts and stops, to make it sound more natural when they're reading. This one sounds like it does not put pauses in the right place and stuff like that, so I did not like that. So I will read it. Now that The Handmaid's Tale has revealed its ending, a new tale is coming into focus. The sequel series, The Testaments. Author Margaret Atwood and show creator Bruce Miller explained in The Hollywood Reporter's recent oral history on the Hulu series how Atwood's sequel novel, The Testaments, which published in 2019, set The Handmaid's Tale series ending on a different course. The Testaments takes place after the events of The Handmaid's Tale and centers on the young girls in Gilead who are training to be wives, and that includes Hannah, who has been renamed Agnes, the daughter of Elizabeth Moss. Well, the actress was Elizabeth Moss, starring character June Osborne. And in the book and the TV series, June is referred to as Offred for a lot of it, because the handmaids lose their birth name. They take away their birth name and they make them go by the first names of whatever commanders that they are with, that they are supposed to be trying to give them a baby with. So in her case, she was with Fred Waterford, so her name was of Fred, Offred. So, just another disturbing fact in the Gilead regime. All right. Because Hannah is in Gilead, when the Testaments will begin, The Handmaid's Tale could not end with June reuniting with her firstborn daughter. So people kept asking about that over and over again. They wanted her to be able to reunite, because that was one of the main reasons she wouldn't leave Gilead for the most part, was that she wanted to get her daughter out of there. So they're like, we could not reunite them, because in the book and in the series that's coming up, Gilead's still going to be a thing, and she's still going to be stuck there. So, anyway, The Handmaid's Tale couldn't end with reuniting with the firstborn daughter, which leaves the image of Hannah being ripped from June's arms still searing in viewers' minds. After the May 26th series finale, Atwood had given Miller a small no-kill list. Midway through the series, that included directives to leave June, her 2 daughters, and Aunt Lydia alive. Now, there's also people that are very, very upset that Nick was killed because Nick is Nicole's biological father. And in the books, he is supposed to be alive and in hiding, much like June is alive and in hiding. But we'll see what they do with that. I'm pretty sure they said they were going to try to keep it rooted with the Handmaid's Tale series. So he may very well be dead in the Testament series. They might do some crazy ass shit though and say that he's alive. I don't know. All right. Atwood had given no. Okay, so to leave June, her two daughters, and Aunt Lydia and Dowd alive. Aunt Lydia has a big part in this, so she has to be alive. The latter being the character who leads the next adaptation. Chase Infinity stars as Agnes / Hannah. Nicole, her youngest daughter, goes by Holly by the series end. Armed with the information of Atwood's testaments, Miller Moss, executive producer Warren Littlefield, and season 6 co-showrunners Eric Tushman and Yalan Chang ended June's tale with an eye towards Hannah's story. In the series finale, June decides to go back into Gilead, never stop fighting for her oldest daughter. She leaves the youngest daughter, Holly, behind with her own mother, Cherry Jones. Moss, who will be an executive producer on the Testaments, but is not supposed to be taking a major role in the show, which is also created by Miller, hasn't confirmed she'll have any on-screen role, but Miller wants to keep that hope alive for viewers. So there's a chance, but not necessarily. She threw herself back and she couldn't walk away from her daughter, so June is still doing her job. She's still doing what she was doing in The Handmaid's Tale. Along with Luke, Otifeg Benley, and Moira, Samira Wiley, they're still out there somewhere ringing the bell to get Hannah back. The creator of both series tells THR, the beauty of having watched Handmaid's Tale is that you understand there's this huge operation of people who care, who are out there and who are risking themselves to get reunited with their children. So is June influencing the Testaments? Absolutely. She's out there. She's out there trying to get Hannah back. Do we see her? I would love to see her, but let's expand into how the people who survive are rebelling in all these different areas. It looks like Gilead is just rife with people who really hate it. So let's see more of them. Atwood similarly remains vague, but fans the hope. If you're an underground resistance fighter, you're underground. That is the point. Nobody knows where you are, because if they do, you're going to be dead, she tells THR. June is always there, but in the background, and she turns up at the end of the book, as you will recall. But that doesn't mean the adaptation has to follow suit. Miller has been developing the Testament since 2023, and he's approaching his second Atwood adaptation similar to the first. The Handmaid's Tale series faithfully followed the book in season 1, and from there, once it caught up with the source material, Miller and his writers continued the story by using details from the book as a guide to tell the remaining 5 seasons. I went into adapting The Handmaid's Tale with the idea that there's more than enough in the book, and I think that's been borne out. He says, in season 6, we were still extrapolating from the book elements that were just mentioned or hinted at. The Handmaid's Tale was still very much Margaret's world and Margaret's story. The Testaments in the same way. We're using Margaret's box of tricks, as many of Margaret's tricks as we can. The Testaments went into production 6 weeks after The Handmaid's Tale finished filming, thanks in large part to Littlefield gathering the executive producers and their production partners at both MGM Television and Hulu for a meeting of the minds back in 2019 when The Testaments book was first coming out. I think that's when I got it. I'm not sure. I might have waited a little bit, but yeah, I think I got it back when it first came out. The premise of that meeting in 2000, and I got the audiobook, so when I was having trouble finding the digital copy earlier, that's because I did not have a digital text copy. I had an audiobook. I did find the text copy on oh gosh, what was that? I can't show you it. Let me see. The internet, I think it's called the Internet Archive. So if you want to find digital copy of Handmaid's Tale, digital copy of the Testaments, they have it on the Internet Archive. I just know that when I tried to search for the Testaments the second time on there, it didn't come up. So I'm not sure how I looked it up the first time. The first time I had sent a link for it in my email, and I had an email, but it was so old that I couldn't find it at first, and I found it after I was like checking all my emails and found it. It was like at the end of my list of really old emails, and the link still worked. The book is still there, and you can open it on the browser if you want to. You can download a copy if you want to, however you want to do it, but it is there. Anyway, where was I? The premise of that meeting in 2019 was to say, are we going to allow ourselves to ask, what's the 10-year plan? We had this amazing world. We were world builders with the help of Margaret's inspiration. So how do we continue that? Recalls Littlefield to THR. We said we'd do 5, maybe 6 seasons, and from there we went to transition to the Testaments. And that transition should be butted right up against The Handmaid's Tale. When production finally began on the final season of The Handmaid's Tale, Tushman and Chang took over as co-showrunners so that Miller could pivot to developing the Testaments. Miller remained actively involved in the final season and wrote the series finale, which was directed by Moss. The final scene brought to life the full circle ending Miller had always envisioned, where June ends the series speaking the words that had opened the show, also speaking the words that begin the book. In the pilot episode of the series, we portrayed a Boston that was under military control by Gilead, and what we have in the finale is the joy and the success of the liberation of Boston. Has Gilead disappeared? No, it hasn't, says Littlefield. So the fight's not over, and that's important for June. But there's a sense of accomplishment and victory, and that our unsung heroes are rather heroic, as we say goodbye to this chapter of our Gilead universe. And the series leaves viewers with a victory in Boston and the sense that the women who rose up notched a major win, including Rita, Amanda Brugel. We wanted hope, he adds of the ending. Our characters are not from the Marvel universe. They are ordinary women who would rise up, unite, and do extraordinary things. That is the thrust of the final few episodes of the show. The Testaments novel opens several years after The Handmaid's Tale book ended. Since the series continued well beyond the book's timeline, the gap narrows with the next adaptation. Testaments in our world is 4 years after the end of our series. Littlefield explains. Aunt Lydia is really our only continuing character. Aunt Lydia has a school for girls to prepare them for womanhood and life in a Gilead world. What's so fascinating is that these young women have never known a world that's not a Gilead world, that's completely different from our June point of view, that always was our rudder for the Handmaid's Tale. They're also teenagers. So there's a rebelliousness, there's attitude about everything. Okay, and oh gosh, what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, Aunt Lydia. Okay, so keep in mind, Aunt Lydia in The Handmaid's Tale, she's presented as the person who's kind of in control of these handmaids. She's teaching the handmaids how to be handmaids. She is controlling where these handmaids, what commanders they are hooked up with. She's going to the households of these commanders to make sure things are on the up and up, things like that. In the book, she's more hands off. She's like, she teaches them, she sends them off, but then doesn't really see them too much again. But in the Testaments, she's teaching these young girls. So just keep that in mind. She has these roles of teaching these women. She also believes that she's kind of trying to create a better world for the women. So she wants to be very involved and entrenched in the women's lives of Gilead. So you also see her occasionally having interactions with the wives. Sometimes, not often, but rarely, you'll even see her having interactions with the commanders. So kind of remember that. But her goal, I think, in both the Testaments and the Handmaid's Tale, is to really try to guide these girls in a direction that they can have a better life. And in her view, she's doing what she needs to do to make things, try to make everybody do perform certain roles and do things all regimented and everything. These guys are still freaking rotten to the core. There's still going to be rotten apples that are destroying the whole thing. And so by the end of Handmaid's Tale, she's seen enough of this to know that Gilead's basically fucking rotten from within, and it needs to be taken down. So while she used to be a true believer, not so much anymore. And as far as I understand, by the time we get to the Testaments, she's made that shift completely. But she's not necessarily showing it. She has to live and lead in that regime without getting taken down. So she shows that she is supporting people that are against Gilead, then that could lead to her downfall, and that is not something that she wants. Anyway, where was I? Oh, I think I already read that. Yep. If that sounds like mini Mrs. Waterford's or Mrs. Putnam's in training, Miller says they're even worse. They go from being children to being married. And so what you get are adolescent wives. The creator says of capturing the experience for girls growing up in Gilead. The Testament is described as a coming-of-age story that finds this new generation of young women grappling with a bleak future that awaits them. Facing the prospects of being married off, they will be forced to search for allies, both new and old, to help in their fight for freedom and the life they deserve. Aside from Infinity's Agnes, Hulu has released character descriptions for the rest of the Gilead girls and women who will fill out this world. There's key character Daisy, Lucy Halliday, a young Canadian teen whose life is turned upside down when she learns of her connection to the Republic of Gilead, along with Shunammite Rowan Blanchard, a pampered teen from a prominent Gilead family, Becca Matea Conforti, a girl from humble origins who attends school with Gilead's elite and questions what she's being groomed for. Hulda Isolde Ardis, a guileless girl full of excitement at the prospect of womanhood. Jehoshiba Shishina Pomlwana? I don't know. A competitive classmate from a respected family. And Miriam Burva Pandya, a girl on the cusp of womanhood who struggles under the pressure of marriage season. And obviously I am not going to get some of these names right. Some of them I really have no idea how to pronounce them. So I'm doing what I can to pronounce the sound combinations how I think they might go. But I don't really know the language enough to know how those sounds would be pronounced in their language. Then there's Paula, Amy Simetz, wife to a high-ranking commander whose perfect life is complicated by her new stepdaughter. Now, I believe they're talking about Agnes. The stepdaughter, I believe, is Agnes, and Paula is going to be her new mother. So, another new mother. So she had June was her biological mother. They took her from her. She was taken and given to another commander and his wife. And then eventually that wife is no longer in the picture and she ends up with a stepmother. Yeah. Granted, the other one is technically a stepmother too, but they don't acknowledge that. Not really. And Rosa Kira Gillian, a caring and dedicated Martha described as a maternal figure to Agnes and a much-needed source of love in an otherwise cold household. Aunt Vidala, and I kept saying Aunt Vidalia while I was reading, but yeah, I guess it is Vidala. I just keep reading it as Vidalia, but I definitely heard other people say Vidala. So maybe I'll try to get it right. We'll see. Mabel Lee is a stern disciplinarian described as the heir apparent to the women's sphere of Gilead, along with her right hand, Aunt Gabbana, Zarin Darnell Martin, and cool Aunt Este, Ava Foote. Okay. As for the one male character so far, a young commander named Garth, Brad Alexander, becomes involved in the personal lives of the girls he's sworn to protect. So, Garth is a commander. I didn't remember that being, like, I don't know, like they could have switched the roles a little bit, but I didn't remember him being a commander. But I could be wrong. Anything's possible. It was something with Pearl Girls or whatever, and him trying to get these girls doing what they need to do their part. Anyway, that's as much as I will say about that. Just like The Handmaid's Tale, the Testament series is catered to people who haven't read the book. You should be able to turn on the first episode and enjoy it like a drama, says Miller. I tried to milk as much as I could from the book, but it doesn't follow the story or the timeline exactly, because the Testament's book takes place over a very long period of time. So this is one of the things that when people were like saying, oh, they can't have baby Nicole as Daisy because of whatever, I'm like, the book technically, like, it goes over periods of time when they're kids. Like, there's flashbacks from when they're kids, when they're older kids, when they're like right before they end up in this situation that they're in where they're teenagers. So it actually goes over a pretty vast amount of time. So really, they could play around with the timeline like that to make it so that even though the timelines don't fit the book necessarily, they still work okay. They're not going to be 4 years apart from Handmaid's Tale necessarily, but anyway, where was I? Miller insists that the adaptation shouldn't be treated like homework, where you have to read the books to get up to speed. I hope there are wonderful additions if you have watched The Handmaid's Tale, and even more so if you read the books. But part of my job is to make it accessible, and it is to make it accessible drama. At the beginning of The Handmaids, you see a woman running away from soldiers in the woods with her child. You don't have to know her name or her story or where she's from to know whose side you're on and whose side you're not on. And though Dowd is and of course he's talking about the scene where June and her child are trying to run away from these Gilead commanders or angels or whoever they are that are chasing them. She's running in the woods trying to get away from them. She's trying to hide from them. And they end up finding her. They snatch the girl from her. They hit her upside the head and knock her out. And that is like what you see. Like, I don't remember if that's exactly the first thing you see, but it might be. I don't remember. Anyway. And though Dowd is the only character officially confirmed to appear, he isn't shutting the door on any Handmaid's Tale characters who are still out there in the show's larger universe returning, except for one. Serena's story really feels like the end of Serena's story. That she is someone who's never going to admit that she did wrong. But you can see in her final scene how holding on to the illusion that she did right is getting very, very difficult, he says of Yvonne Strahovski's character. Miller previously revealed that he heavily considered killing Serena, but was convinced by his co-showrunners to let her live. I love Serena to the point where I'm so much more mad at her because she should know better, he says. Which I find kind of amusing because he's the one that wrote her to keep being like she is. Serena is the commander's wife of June, who was the handmaid of Fred in Handmaid's Tale. And she was a special girl all her own. She was a lot to deal with, and in many ways she was like a polar opposite / reflection of June. So she was like June in many ways, but it was like she was the other side. If everybody has two sides, a good side and a bad side or something like that, she would be the bad side. Something like that. She was like June's reflection almost. And both of them are very narcissistic in some ways. Both of them do some really awful things in some ways. And both of them actually help out and do good things in some ways. But it was like Serena just, no matter how much you hoped and hoped and hoped she would stay on the good side, that she would learn from her mistakes and stop going back to Gilead. Like, no matter what you did, she just kept on reverting back to her old ways every time you thought she might be getting better. Some context, however, does seem necessary for Aunt Lydia, who had an awakening in the 6th and final season of The Handmaid's Tale. Her final scene showed her working with the Mayday resistance to reunite Janine, Madeline Brewer, with her biological daughter, Charlotte, which I was so glad. I was so glad they kept Janine alive because I was so petrified they were going to kill her off for so long, but they kept her alive, and not only did they keep her alive, they got her daughter back to her even after Lawrence had gotten killed, because I thought Lawrence was her only chance of getting that girl out of there. And the really aggravating lady that that Lawrence married, that was supposed to be bringing up Charlotte as her daughter or whatever, finally decided to do the right thing and brought Charlotte back. And I'm definitely attributing to that to it had to have been Aunt Lydia convincing her to do the right thing. Plus, that lady didn't want to be a mom anyway. She was so full of shit with that crap. She was such an awful mom. There's the beginning of an epiphany for Aunt Lydia. She says words and deeds that we never would have expected from her. And 4 years later, she's running the school. So what happened? Pose's little field of the journey of the sequel series will go on with Aunt Lydia, who will be working with the Pearl Girls, aunts in training who have chosen to be in Gilead. Part of that is about Lydia's transformation, that we'll come to know and understand that she chose not to burn down the world, but to try and rebuild it through education in a kinder, more refined way. But she is working from within. That's an interesting journey to see whether Lydia can be successful in what she's attempting to do. Dowd, who previously told THR she's in her same Handmaid's costume while currently on set and filming The Testaments, tells THR that she views Lydia's sequel series journey as one of starting over. I'm wondering if she would look at it as a repentance, which is a very, very good question. As much as it's about her having a clear vision of what the world is really like. She tells THR she's changed, no question. All that went on in the final season changes that woman for good. To be spoken to the way June spoke to her, those things stick, and they stayed. I mean, the way that Janine spoke to her, and that was somebody that she really cared about, that she really wanted to do right by. And Janine freaking told her exactly how she felt about all of it. So yeah, I'm sure, I mean, I would say a good part of why Aunt Lydia finally woke the fuck up was because of Janine. Janine and June, they both got her to just freaking open up her fucking eyes finally. Anyway, to be spoken to the way June spoke to her, those things stick, and they stayed. She's a different person, and it's very clear she is in the center and really shifted the way she sees the world, certain things she believes in. God and helping, in this case, the Pearl Girls, being there is very, very important to her. It's her life's mission. In the meantime, the Testaments novel is experiencing a resurgence. The audiobook from Atwood currently holds the #1 trending title globally on Spotify, with The Handmaid's Tale audiobook also landing in the top 20. That's the end of the article. Sorry it took so long, but yeah, I'm a little excited. Can you tell? I'm just a little freaking excited. Okay, so let's go back to the live scene. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is from Sharonda from Pay Your Weight. I don't know if you have heard of her. She's another YouTuber. I used to watch her when I was watching Handmaid's Tale, before I started doing reactions myself. Handmaid's Tale was part of the reason that I started doing reactions. We were going through that whole COVID thing where we're all freaking forced to stay home and isolated and not go to work, and the kids were out of school and everything, and we were binging show after show after show, and Handmaid's Tale was one of them. Handmaid's Tale is not a show I would recommend anybody to binge. And what I was finding was that the shows were so hard to get through. They can be very depressing. Every now and then you'll get a big win, but most of the time it's loss after loss after loss. And even the episodes where you have big wins, there's a lot of loss going on also. So I was watching these episodes and I needed at least a day or two. I just could not watch one episode after another. It was too much. It was too much for my soul. It was too much for my spirit. And I started trying to remember. I started reading these. It wasn't reading. I started watching these YouTube vlogs, I think, from somebody that was they were analyzing the Handmaid's Tale episodes, and they were discussing what was going on the episodes, and they were discussing the sociological and psychological underpinnings of these episodes, and religious stuff. And then they had pointed to another YouTuber group. This was three girls that do reactions to The Handmaid's Tale, and these were good. These were like really long live streams, I think, where they would go over the episode. They would show images from the episode. They would talk about some of the stuff that was going on in the episode, and and give their take on it. I don't remember their names, but that was one of my favorites and one of the early ones that I started watching. And then I started watching reactions from a bunch of people. I started just like looking up reactions, and there were certain ones that I liked a lot more than others, and so I just started watching them more repetitively. But Sharonda from Pay or Wait was one of the ones that I really liked. I liked the way she didn't do like live watching the reactions. She would watch the reactions and then she would do reviews of them, usually with an image, a Handmaid's Tale image behind her, and then she'd talk about it. So she doesn't do things exactly the same way anymore, but she apparently got a copy of at least a couple of the episodes early, and she is doing a review on them, but she's not like giving a lot of spoilers. So that's what I'm going to go to next. Let me get it ready. This one. We'll do it on this scene. Okay. Let's see here.
From Pay or Wait, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Testament Season 1, which will hit the Hulu, Disney Plus, and whoever else they own streaming platforms on April 8th, all right? Y'all, this story is a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale that follows Agnes and Daisy, two teens in Gilead who must navigate an elite preparatory school where obedience is brutally enforced. Their bond becomes the catalyst that will transform their lives. So for those of y'all who are new to my channel, welcome, hello, so glad you came. I hope you stay. I tell you what I liked about the series, what I didn't like about the series, and is it worth
And
your time
hopefully
watching
I don't have a problem with keeping this up. I realize this is somebody else's work and they could pull it off,
and y'all, I'm gonna be
but
recapping.
hopefully they'll keep it
I
up.
know what you're thinking. Ho, why are you lying? You tell us this every time. You say you're recapping and then you just don't. And I'm telling y'all, I'm gonna do right by y'all this time. I promise I'm gonna do right by y'all. All right. For real, for real.
And she always has awesome freaking nails.
You didn't want to make the trip back.
Sometimes
to
they're
Gilead.
super
Honestly,
long, but
the world
just
is
like
feeling a lot
very
like
fancy.
Gilead these days. But I'm here to tell y'all, I think you're gonna have to make the trip back. I'm not even gonna hold you. I ain't gonna lie to you. You're gonna have to make the trip back because I was deeply invested in the Testaments. It was giving peak Handmaid's Tale. You remember when you had to keep watching even though that you knew it was depressing and that something crazy was going to happen each week, but every week you came back and said, torture me because this show is good? That is what the Testaments is giving. I really don't want to overhype it for y'all, but it really made me feel like when I first started watching Handmaid's Tale and when I got hooked. I'm trying not to overhype it too much.
After a career working for major
I do not have a thing that keeps the commercials off.
And I realized there was a better way that we've
skip them when I am able.
Yeah, I fear she's that girl. And I think one of the things that I like about the series is that if you think about The Handmaid's Tale, we were watching women who were silenced, who didn't have a voice. And even though we're focusing on Agnes, and they're the plums, right? So they're young girls who are waiting to become women, to get their cycles, so then they can become greens and basically become a wife. And so I think because we're focusing on young teenage girls, so it's giving me like a little bit of YA, because they live in like this kind of whimsical fantasy, even though I'm like, girl, wake up. You live in Gilead. Ain't nothing happy going on here. I like that we get a different side of what is happening in Gilead from a lot of girls who don't remember what the previous world used to be, and how they've pretty much been brainwashed and groomed into believing that this is the only civilization that like has ever survived. And I think that you get a little dose of YA, and then like you almost fall for it. Then they remind you like, no, actually you're still back in Gilead, so don't get too excited. And I think they do a really great job of balancing and weaving all of that into it. Now, I'm not saying it's not as crazy as Handmaid's Tale was. I think they kind of ease you into things, but they also remind you like, hey, y'all, don't, I see you getting a little excited and getting a little happy that this is going to be a happy story, but it's not. All right. I think they do a really great job of
not a happy story.
Keeping something for the fans of the previous season. You don't need to have watched The Handmaid's Tale, but I do think to understand some of the references that happen, you probably should. Like, I mean, it's a good series. The first couple seasons, and you know, I was a little mad about the last season, but I do think that you probably should go back and watch it, but you don't need to have watched it. You can just get a general understanding of where we are in Gilead years after the rebellion that has happened. But I do like that we are kind of getting a different side to things and a different perspective of things that are happening in Gilead, and really seeing these young girls who have really been sheltered in a way finally see the light as to what is truly happening before their eyes. I think that the performances are really great. Chase Infinity is fantastic as Agnes. There's just like this like childlike spirit to her, right? As she's, you know, excited to become a woman, excited to become a wife. And I think that she plays her character so beautifully that you almost believe the facade that she's really been forced to like interact with or live under. And I really love how she balances someone who is still inexperienced but is starting to understand more and more as she's thrusted into womanhood what is really happening in this society, especially because she doesn't really know where she comes from, who she truly is. And I think watching that unfold throughout the course of the season, I think she plays it so perfectly. But then we also have Lucy Halliday, who plays Daisy, who is kind of the opposite. She really be acting like June. I was like, are you sure that you're not June's child? Because you got a lot of June tendencies, Daisy, and I'm not going to hold you. Now, Agnes did some stuff to annoy me this season as well, but Daisy was just on another level. I said, sweetheart, I need you to go watch The Handmaid's Tale, because did you see how some of these things worked out for June? Simmer down now. But I like that she plays this rebellious girl who is really living in a different facade, because she comes from the real world of what's going on, but it's almost like she's been sheltered in her own way to not understand what was happening in a place like Gilead, and to really not understand that you cannot underestimate these women, these young women, because they can put you in danger as well. You might think that you know more than them. You might think that you're better than them. Then, but baby, they will get you caught up. And I like that how she plays this.
Will get you caught up.
The balance between she's a pearl.
I met Bryson Grace through Zillow Home Loans.
I had an idea of what I needed from our agent.
When we're introduced to her, and I like how she plays this person who's trying to go into this new society and trying to find a way to like mesh into it as a pearl, but there's also parts of her old side that are coming out, and I think that she plays that very well. And I love the yin and yang to Agnes and Daisy. I think that Lucy and Chase, they really complement each other very well. But honestly, like, it's a lot of good people. Aunt Lydia, played by Ann Dowd, she's always fantastic. I like that we kind of get like a morphed version of her, because we saw that even her eyes had to be open to everything that was happening in Gilead and The Handmaid's Tale, especially in the final season. And we get to see a different side of her, and I think that she's fantastic. But it's another person. There's some more aunts that we get to meet and I really love what they I think Aunt Vidala is one of the characters, and I'm blanking on her name, but I think she's absolutely fantastic, and as we get to learn more backstory into who she is and how she kind of fits into this, and as we learn who people were before, I think it makes the story even more interesting. Now, I do want to give some kudos to Rowan Blanchard, who plays Shunammite. I like that all of the different girls, like, in this series, I love how they have their own personalities. Like, they're very girly, but think if people were basically brainwashed at a young age, like how that kind of plays into one another. I really like Rowan's character. I also love Eva Foote, who plays an Esty, because I think she shows kind of a lighter side to the ants as well. I think her name is Isolde Artis, who plays Hulda, who actually was first introduced to her in Wayward. I really love her character as well. I'm just trying to, like, I think the cast is so fantastic. Everybody plays their part so well. And also to Matea Conforti, who plays Becca, baby. My girl was acting down in this series. I thought she was so good. As you get to see how her storyline unfolds, it was probably one of my favorite storylines to watch in this season. There's also a young actress who plays Rebecca. And baby, when I say that you threw the shade so well, you did so good. I was just like, yes, I know I'm not supposed to like you, but because you're so shady and you're so disrespectful, I just have to stand and root for you every single step of the way. But Amy Simons, who plays, actually, I don't want to tell you who everyone plays, but Amy, I'm watching you. You played your character a little bit too well. The way that, it's just something about you, that spirit that your character has. It just, sometimes I feel like, okay, maybe she's a good person, and then you'll do something, I'd be like, maybe she's not a good person, but maybe she's just a victim of circumstance because she just in this society that's really trash, and she knows it's trash, and she chose the wrong side. But yeah, I think that this series is giving like peak Handmaid's Tale. Okay, now at some points I would say the only issue that I do have with the series is sometimes I feel like it's following the same beats as what we saw in Handmaid's Tale, and I actually just ordered the book. I'm about to start reading the book now. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because honestly, like, I could see the plot lines coming from a mile away, but they did sneak some surprises in on me. But honestly, I was just here for it. That's really the only issue I have, that some of the storylines could seem just like everything that happened in The Handmaid's Tale, but sometimes it could be like, sometimes we're doomed to make the same mistakes of people in the past. And especially as we get to learn more about all of our characters, how they kind of relate to one another, how they're kind of connected to one another. I think they do a really great job of exploring things that happen to young women. I don't want to get too in depth in it, but there are some serious topics that we explore as far as mental health and other things that I think they do a really great job of balancing that. And also making sure that you have lighthearted moments, but you're still focusing on some important issues at the same time. There's going to be some fun surprises for you guys, but honestly, for me, I had a really great time watching The Testaments. My expectations were like exceeded, because I really wasn't expecting that much, but I think that these young women in this series, they're absolutely fantastic. I think the cast is just operating top notch. And I can't wait to see what they have in store for us. I can't wait to see how you guys react to some of these episodes. But make sure you come back, because I'm going to be recapping them. We got 3 episodes coming out on April 8th this week, and then we have new episodes.
And I did not put her link in the
so let me know what you think
in the information, but I will go back and I will put her link in there so that it will be there.
I'm about to start reading it, but I gotta go to the airport and catch this flight. But those are my thoughts on The Testaments. As always, my name is Sharona from Pair Wait. If you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure you hit that notification bell. And I love you guys 3000. And until I see you again, bye.
Taxes was chasing updates. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert.
Okay, all right. I am gonna copy that. Okay, let's go back to the live scene.
Hey everyone, it's Sharona from Pair Wait. And today I'm going to be reviewing
stop.
A24's latest.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully I got the right one.
Hey everyone, it's Sharona from Pair Wait. And today I'm going to be...
Okay, sorry about that. All right, so that's I think all I got for you right now. Just keep in mind, I am going to be doing reactions. I will provide a link for her It just give me like a minute or two after I shut the stream down. A minute or two after I shut the stream down, I will go ahead and paste her information, at least the link to her video. And there were other people I talked about. I will try to remember who they were, and I'll try to get their information. So that way, if you are really into The Handmaid's Tale and Testaments or anything like that, you can kind of take a look at some of these other content providers that do stuff with Handmaid's Tale and Testaments and stuff like that. Some of them do not any longer. Just, they were some of my favorites. So if you decide to go back and watch more Handmaid's Tale and you want somebody that can give you some time to digest and who will like tell you their thoughts and I mean that was one of the main reasons that I started doing that, is because I was like, I have time to digest this stuff. I can go and listen to what other people thought of the episode, and I can get in the chats and I can chime in myself. Like, that was something that I really enjoyed doing. And then it gave me some time to just stop and reflect and wait until I watched the next episode, because these were very heavy episodes. So anyway, the show starts tomorrow, the 8th. I imagine they will probably drop it at night, so I will probably watch it on the 9th, and I will do reactions, but they will probably start about a week after, and I will do one episode each week. So I hope to see you there. And also remember, I am doing Testaments live readings here. Let me go to my ending screen. I have a schedule on there. So I got Testaments live reads on Sundays and Tuesdays. I'm doing Deadlock After Watch live streams on Sundays. And I am going to fix the sound on that. I know that it was messed up, but I'm going to fix it, so hopefully it won't be so awful anymore. I am doing Solo Leveling reactions on Fridays, and I am finishing up my Gen V Season 2 reactions on Fridays. I had stopped doing them for a while, and I had 3 episodes left. There is one episode, which is episode 6, that I put up, I think, last week. So that is there, and nobody's really watched it. So if you're into that, you can watch it. If not, that's okay too. But I'll be posting those every Friday until they're done. And like I said, there's only a couple more, so 2 more weeks, and that will be done. And yeah, and I'll be doing the rest of Deadlock, and I'll be doing Testaments. So anyway, that's all I got for you. I'll see you when I see you. Bye.